what is it with these guys? Can we stop filing lawsuits against one another? You know, it's horrible. It's ugly. There have been names called. There have been slander in the press on both sides, and one might say one more than the other. But this is just ridiculously unnecessary. It's like kids in a playground. And I would rather people just grow up, look at the country and think we need to make sure that we put the people first.
So no one campaigns. No one campaigns in the United Kingdom with the sort of enthusiasm of the king of Brexit, Nigel Farage, do they? From photo opportunities like this with a statue, which just tickled me last night, to talk of men's lunchboxes at a lunchtime by-election event.
There was the case Leah Thomas in America. I mean, 6'3", with a lunchbox that would have made Linford Christie jealous. I mean,
you can't take him anywhere.
But in one of the biggest self-inflicted political PR nightmares in recent years, the decision by Reform UK's chairman Zia Yusuf to report its best-performing MP Rupert Lowe to the police continues to reverberate. Now, some exclusive reporting on this. I am reliably informed by Reform sources that Farage did not know Yusuf was intending to release that disastrous Friday night statement announcing the decision to shop the multimillionaire businessman to the cops. And I'm also told it's only a matter of time before Yusuf steps down from his role. And we know what that means. But the damage to some extent has been done, with Sky News announcing today's breaking news in the last hour.
To some of the day's other stories now. Rupert Lowe has said he intends to bring legal action against Reform UK leader Nigel Farage over allegations of defamation claims. The MP for Great Yarmouth said the legal action related to claims made by Mr Farage, party chairman Zia Yusuf and Reform MP Lee Anderson that he had engaged in workplace bullying. Allegations, of course, he denies. It comes after Mr Lowe's suspension as an MP for the Reform Party. This was just last month.
So it's a gift to Reform haters everywhere, and the situation is certainly getting more toxic, with Rupert today confirming he is suing Farage, Yusuf and Lee Anderson. So he posted on X, and remember on X, he has massive engagement after being endorsed by Elon Musk. He posted this, and I'll read it all. On the 7th of March 2025, Lee Anderson and Zia Yusuf signed and published a statement on behalf of Reform UK. Mr Anderson and Mr Yusuf are respectively the party's chief whip and chairman. The statement falsely alleged, amongst other things, that I had engaged in serious workplace bullying and had made multiple serious threats to physical assault and injure Mr Yusuf. The statement was read by millions and has caused serious harm to my reputation. I believe it was published as part of a concerted smear campaign against me after I made comments about the party's leader Nigel Farage. I have today instructed my solicitors, Brett Wilson, to send letters of claim to Reform's leader and director, Mr Nigel Farage, Mr Anderson and Mr Yusuf, asserting claims for defamation. I call on the party, Mr Farage, Mr Anderson and Mr Yusuf, to do the right thing and retract these false allegations. In the event that they are unwilling to do so, it is my intention to issue High Court proceedings. Whilst I have no desire to litigate, I will do what is necessary to ensure my reputation is restored. Given the extant legal proceedings, I am unable to comment further on the matter at this stage. And whatever you think, this whole mess has just sucked the enthusiasm out of what was Reform UK's overwhelming drive. I mean, you used to see that membership ticker and it was going up by like 5,000 a week sometimes even more than that. That has stopped. And I think this meme, which is going viral, is probably the most telling, actually, because it talks about what is our least worst option. And do we really want to be voting for our least worst option? Although YouGov has Reform sitting behind Labour, but narrowly ahead of the Tories, and Farage is heartened by his personal polling, showing an approval rating well clear of Badenoch or Slippery Starmer. The Sun gave him a tacit endorsement this week, and Nigel confirmed his move to the centre officially in a party political broadcast. Watch.
We are a patriotic party. We don't care whether you're centre left or centre right.
if you believe this country needs a big shake-up, use those local elections on May the 1st, vote for reform, let's take over some of these councils and we'll show you in government what we can do.
But this tack to the centre, and I'm going to be honest about it, the appalling treatment of Rupert Lowe has opened up a gap on the right of British politics, with Ben Habib confirming here on Outspoken yesterday that he has taken over the Integrity Party, although he is not yet officially its leader. So why is the right so divided, and is Nigel a hero or villain? To debate this now, let me bring in today's superstar panel, former Reform UK London mayoral candidate but new Integrity member Howard Cox, and Farage's close colleague at UKIP and the Brexit Party, Alex Phillips. And we have had dramatic interventions from both of you this week. So Howard Cox, let's look at your post on X where you were just on board immediately, announcing you were with Ben Habib. You have joined this party. Alex went viral for totally different feelings about this launch, writing, so Ben Habib has decided he can establish, grow and run a new political party. Let's see how that goes, shall we? And after all his slurs against Nigel, he's the sole director. Ironically, it's also named the Integrity Party. I didn't see much grace and integrity in his bitter diatribes on X that showed an absurd lack of self-awareness. It took Nigel Farage and a dedicated team decades of hard work and sacrifice to gain a political foothold. Ben is about to find out what realpolitik looks like. Enjoy splashing in the beginner's pool with all the other funnies. How many are there now? Heritage, Reclaim, UKIP 2.0, that other one I can't even remember the name of. Setting up an alternative right-wing party is the new businessman's weekend hobby. They should stick to golf or tinkering with old cars. And I did actually read all of that to Ben Habib yesterday. You know I do both sides here, and this is what he said.
Well, I love playing golf. I'm not as good as I should be. My handicap should be a lot lower. I think if I practiced, I'd be a lot better. But I mean, if she thinks that it's such a forlorn and pointless exercise, she should not worry about us. Move on, Alex.
Okay, let's do this. Alex Phillips, why is it wrong for Ben Habib to put his money where his mouth is and actually see if he can do it?
Well, I didn't say it's wrong. I just, it's going to flop. I mean, it's that simple. Look, I've been involved with a Nigel Farage-led party since the early days of UKIP. And one's got to understand that when I became a sort of central part of UKIP back in 2013, the party had already been going for about 20 years. It was on 5% of the vote. And I know how hard it is to make that climb and build and become a household name and get brand recognition and for people to start taking you seriously. And the point is, Reform have now got into that position, and it's taken decades of people who have really sacrificed everything. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It also takes an awareness of the media. They need to be interested in you. And frankly, the way that the rules are with legacy media, no one talks about you until you've really won seats in Parliament, unless you're something really extraordinary. And we have seen, as I mentioned in my tweet, a number of alternative right-wing parties set up in the last couple of years. And if you went onto the streets and did a straw poll of the first 15 people you meet, nobody would have heard of any of them. That's just the truth. And talking about, you know, I know Ben super well. Okay, I probably know Ben better than most people. And I've got a great lot of admiration for Ben. But it's not realistic to think he can launch a brand new party and suddenly it's going to make any sort of inroads whatsoever, especially within the time frame we have. The only thing it does is it detracts attention away from the party that can actually get into number 10, which does have the manifesto that he purports he wants to put into place. So I just think it's, you know, why waste your time and money? Look, if he wants to do it, he can be my guest. That's the great thing about this country. Anybody can go and set up a political party and give it their best shot. But like I said, I just think his time would be better spent relaxing on the golf course.
So you're just wasting your time, Howard Cox?
Hi, Alex. It's lovely to speak to you. And I, you know, Alex is a friend. I've known her for, 3 or 4 years now with what we've done in the past. And she's been very supportive of what I've tried to do with Reform. And that's the point. I put my heart and soul into Reform. I really did for a couple of years. And I got no support really from Reform headquarters in the London mayoral election. I came second in the Dover as an MP of 24% of the vote. And if we'd had 3 or 4 more weeks and Sunak hadn't run to the hills and, put us into a situation to basically, a wrong foot reform, we would have, I probably might have been sitting on the green benches too. I was that close. But what's happened now is so sad and disappointing for me, because I don't take this lightly. I didn't really want to leave reform, but I was put in a position which I had no choice. I had to leave. And we all know what that was. And, I wasn't spoken to since the election of last year by anyone from Reform headquarters. After standing as London Mayor, as standing as an MP, no one spoke to me whatsoever. And on the day of the election of in terms of the London mayoral position, not one person from Reform headquarters, including Nigel, who wasn't leader at that point, came to support me. Even with a camera to photograph me voting for myself in the ballot box, the traditional picture of that would have been very good. The only person that did turn up was Rupert Lowe. And he actually said, Howard, I've come here to support you. And I know that man for a long time. And I can honestly say that he's a good and decent man. And the way he's being treated, my particular situation was that because I supported Tommy Robinson's terrible, the way he's been treated, I'm not suggesting he's right, please, Tommy Robinson, but I support the fact that he's been treated terribly. But because I did that, I got this text, a WhatsApp text from a good friend, I thought, is Richard Tice, saying, if you continue to talk about Tommy Robinson, you will be expelled. Now, how do you have free speech in a situation like that? And that's why I'm in a situation where I'm so sad. And I tell you what, this could all be solved. Because I do rate Nigel Farage. I do think he's a consummate professional, a brilliant politician. I've never seen anyone that can talk without an auto cue so passionately and so convincingly.
The man is no auto cue at GB News either. But first, we ingest a credit card's worth of microplastics every week. Tiny particles in our food, water and air. They don't just pass through it, they build up in our organs, disrupt hormones and are linked to fertility issues, neurological disorders and heart disease. In early 2024, human brain samples contained 0.5% plastic by weight, with higher levels tied to Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative diseases. Microplastics have also been found in semen and placentas, correlating with lower sperm quality, fetal exposure, and declining fertility. BPA and phthalates mimic or disrupt hormones like estrogen and testosterone, leading to reduced sperm counts, irregular cycles, and development issues in children. With microplastics in bottled water, food, and even household dust, avoiding exposure is impossible. But you can support your body's ability to fight back. Moringa activates the NRFT pathway, your body's detox switch, helping flush out microplastic-associated toxins like BPA, BPS, and phthalates. This pathway boosts detox enzymes, making harmful chemicals and water soluble for easier excretion. Now, not all moringa is created equal. You know that many supplements use lower quality sources, root, bark, or contaminated powders, lacking the full spectrum of benefits. Plus, moringa naturally tastes bitter, and to be honest, it's pretty gross, which is what led me to Morning Bean by Verso, a rich, chocolatey coffee alternative packed with moringa, cocoa, polyphenols, and electrolytes to help detox, fuel energy, performance, focus, and longevity. And look, I love this. I've been actually drinking it all day to try and deal with this hay fever. And it's honestly amazing. I'm not joking. It tastes like a McDonald's hot chocolate. It's that type of taste. I love a McDonald's hot chocolate. And I don't actually know how they mask the bitter notes of moringa, but it doesn't bother me because it just tastes so good. Plus, Verso only uses pure moringa leaf, the most nutrient-dense part of the plant, and conducts third-party testing on every batch to ensure potency, purity, and safety. You can't avoid microplastics, but you can support your body's detox process. Start your day with Morning Bean for research-backed detox, energy, and health. Click on the link below or visit buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken for 15% off. That's buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code for a 15% discount. But now, back to the show.
Yeah. And from my point of view, I wanted him to succeed. And I still think Reform UK will do very well in the local elections. And I hope they do, because I hate Labour with a passion. But the thing is, you don't treat people who are grassroots people by throwing out good chair people and all that sort of thing. And what it could be solved overnight, Dan, very simply, put this all to bed and put the vote who should be leader of the party, who should be chair of the party, to the members. And I think that would solve it.
Alex Phillips, do you know anything about my reporting in the Digest that Nigel was not actually aware of the fact that Zia Yusuf was going to announce so publicly that he was reporting Rupert Lowe to the police just before a local election campaign, and that actually Nigel has been pretty despondent behind the scenes? I mean, he's obviously supported his chairman publicly, but has been pretty horrified about how this has all played out.
Look, I wasn't there, so I don't know the truth of what went on. But what I do know is when I saw that statement land on X, I thought to myself, this is really weird. This is bizarre, because if there's one thing I do know about Nigel is, first of all, he's really non-confrontational. You know, you actually get the wall of silence when he's disappointed in you or upset with you. He really does pull down the shutters, which isn't always conducive to sorting things out. But that's because he actually, believe it or not, in reality, is a very non-confrontational man. He doesn't like fallouts at all. But not only that, he's a very savvy political operator. And I just feel there'd be something in his logic, having fought many campaigns. And also, you know, Howard's talking about the Tommy Robinson factor here. It's a great shame in British politics that people cannot just have free speech and parties have to be whipped, and they have to make calculations based upon what's going to bring them electoral success. And it's a great shame, frankly, that those two names, Tommy and Robinson, would actually create an immense amount of fallout, because the legacy media would do nothing but obsess over it, keep ramming home the message to everyone in the country that reform is dangerous and racist. And as a result, they would start hemorrhaging the votes that they need, not from the base, but the votes they need to accrue to actually get above that 30% mark and start making real inroads. And what I worry about with this is something clearly went extremely wrong in this fallout between Rupert and Nigel. I was speaking to Rupert actually the day before he put his own piece in the newspaper saying that Nigel was messianic. And I thought to myself, why are you doing that? You know, why are you putting something negative about the party leader in the newspaper with Andrew Pearce, who's pretty much overtly a conservative? You know, that's just foolish. That's not going to help matters. And then the situation seemed to worsen. It got more toxic. And when I saw that press statement drop, I thought to myself, that just isn't good judgment. And if there's one thing I do know about Nigel, maybe he's a human and makes all sorts of mistakes, but politically his judgment is normally right, as is being reflected in the polling. And I just sort of think to myself, what is it with these guys? Can we stop filing lawsuits against one another? You know, it's horrible. It's ugly. There have been names called. There have been slander in the press on both sides, and one might say one more than the other. But this is just ridiculously unnecessary. It's like kids in a playground. And I would rather people just grow up, look at the country and think we need to make sure that we put the people first. We need to make sure that we get rid of this lousy leadership from the two legacy parties who have driven the United Kingdom into managed decline, and do something different for a change. And we have the opportunity potentially in 2029 for something really exciting to happen. And that is the first new party in over 100 years to actually get the keys to number 10 Downing Street and actually start enacting a manifesto and a slate of policies that really represent the British people. Now, there are going to be people who say, well, I don't like Nigel for this, or Reform hasn't got this in their manifesto and I wish they had. They're not going far enough on this. They're going too far on that. Guess what? You cannot please everybody. But what a political party needs to do, as it's building a machine and approaching critical elections, is look at the polling, look at the data, use a political strategy that is going to harness them the most opportunity while still staying true as much as they can to their core tenet of beliefs, which I think Reform are doing, talking about deporting illegal migrants, talking about how to actually stop the boats, talking about enacting a full and hearty Brexit and using that sovereignty to our advantage. And, you know, you're not going to get everything you want when you open the stocking that Santa's left you on Christmas Day, but be grateful that there's some presents in there for a change.
Yeah, but I guess that is maybe the issue. We're like, oh my goodness, this country needs saving, so we can't walk away from some of these big issues. Alex, there is one question that people are putting to you, which is that Reform should actually be well above 23, 24%. Now, this was the argument that Rupert Lowe made yesterday. I just want to read you out this X exchange and allow you to respond. So you posted, Reform's polling is the continuation of a 40-year-long revolution. The public is innately aware that this is probably Nigel's time. So why is the right splintering when they finally have what they want? But World by Wolf said, you are utterly deluded. Farage has shown he's incapable of breaching 25% in the polls. The Tories will eventually panic and elect Robert Jenrick. A new nationalist party will form under Ben Habib, and Nigel Farage will be back to where he's always been, a 10 to 15% politician. Do you think Nigel can breach that 30%?
Well, he's got to try to. And this is the point. I don't know what Word by Wolf's profession is or what his expertise is, but I've actually been working in politics and in elections, not just in this country, but around the world for 2 decades now. So I actually understand how the system works a bit. And I know how you have to build cohorts of votes to be able to get to that critical mark. I also have some idea of what the electoral landscape in the United Kingdom looks like, okay? So you're never going to get at least 40% of the voters because they're going to be left wing, if not a bit more. And then you're going to have people who still find comfort and solace in the legacy party that they've always voted for. A lot of people, you know, we sit here talking about politics because we love it, because we're politically engaged with it. You would be amazed how many people just do their duty, go to the ballot box and put a cross by the name of the party that they've always voted for. You'd be amazed at the number of people who can only name Sir Keir Starmer and not anybody else in cabinet. You'd be amazed at the number of people who know who Nigel Farage is, but not a single other person in the Reform lineup. And so actually, you know, a lot depends on circumstance as well. And what's happened over the course of, I'd say, about 2 decades now, since I've been involved in UK politics, is the oft-quoted Overton window has shifted. Some of the arguments Nigel Farage was making 10 years ago, 20 years ago, on the subject of immigration are now critical doorstep issues. You remember when he made that big poster saying breaking point, and it showed the snakes of men coming across Europe. And you must also remember the backlash he got for it. For about 6 months, anybody who even knew Nigel Farage was asked, do you like that poster? Do you support that poster? It was the only thing the media held on to try and embarrass and shame anybody who thought that there was a crisis on our hands. Well, guess what? He was proven right. And I think the general public are now going, he had a point. And the thing is about a lot of politics, when you speak to most people on the street, it's the big themes that matter. And most people will say, I'm worried about immigration, and Nigel Farage has always spoken about immigration. When you get into the weeds of what exactly is that policy, who's going to be deported, how many, by what mechanism, Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib, all these other elements, nobody has a clue. And so this is, when you work in politics, you get these things because you've done various elections, you've looked at polling, you've looked at forecasting, you've tried various different techniques. And one thing that Nigel's always known how to do is ram home one big issue. Once upon a time, it was very much Brexit, tied, of course, to the immigration debate. He's going to go hard on immigration. He knows that is severely important to the British people. That is just how politics works. Wouldn't it be lovely if people can have all sorts of beliefs, somehow all get together without falling out, create a magical manifesto that everyone believes in, win 60% of the vote? That would be great. If I had a magic wand on some of the election campaigns I've worked on, I would have used that magic wand and made all of that come true. It's just not what happens. It's not realistic. And I think when you're playing in the big league, which now Reform UK are doing, and they are actually breaching the 25% mark, some polling has them as high as 30, which is actually extraordinarily massive. If you look at the vote share that Labour got in the last general election, it was far lower than Jeremy Corbyn had got in the election before. And yet, because of the dynamics of where the other parties were, they got an electoral landslide. When you start hitting that 30% mark, you really stand a very good chance of getting into 10 Downing Street. And some polling is showing that happening. At the very least, it is showing Reform on 25% plus. So they're nudging into the point that actually Farage being the next Prime Minister is actually conceivable, which is amazing for me to say that after all these years. And do you know what the true marker is? If the Sun newspaper are writing it, that means a lot. Used to work at the Sundown. They like to back the winner. It's always been the mentality of that newspaper. We want to be where the country are. We want to be where our readers are. So to put that big double-page spread, almost tacitly endorsing Nigel Farage by the biggest newspaper in Britain with the highest circulation, that to me is a massive indicator that people are beginning to think the writing may be on the wall. So no, I'm not deluded. I'm just extremely experienced in the political sphere.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.